Hey everybody, it's Party Elite. Welcome back to our Wetlands Pack DLC showcase for Planet Zoo. Today's time lapse is absolutely bonkers. It is definitely the longest time lapse we have ever had. I got way too ambitious, but that's not me speaking from a place of disappointment. I'm actually really excited for what this space is going to look like when it's done. By which I not only mean I'm very excited to share what the space will look like when it's done, but I also mean that it's not done yet. This episode has been a long time in production. I did a lot of research, spent a lot of time picking a culture and people to be inspired by. That took a fair bit of time and sent me down a rabbit hole. I did a lot of research, got very fascinated with a lot of very interesting stuff, and then once that was done, I decided to take on a challenge despite the voice in the back of my head saying, no Party, don't do it. I decided to do it. We're actually going to have a bit of a construction in this enclosure. It's not necessarily very imposing. It's not like the centerpiece. Well, it's the aesthetic centerpiece. It's not the functional centerpiece, I would say. So visually, it's kind of in the background, but it's still a core part of the concept of this space, which again is derived from cultural storytelling and stuff like that, which I'll be getting into shortly. Just want to mention really quickly right off the bat, folks, if you've been enjoying this series, if you would like to see it continue, please don't hesitate to keep letting me know. Leave those likes and comments down below. As always, they make a massive difference, just letting me know what I should keep doing on the channel, what I should pick up the pace on, what I should slow down, so on and so forth. On that note, I'd also be curious to hear your thoughts and opinions on this slightly irregular schedule we've had lately. I mean, there was the long break that was the result of a variety of things. We've been over that, before, but I'm talking specifically about how this episode has been a little delayed, mainly because I was trying to go big with this time lapse, and it took me so long to just collect all the information, visual references, and then it took me a lot of time, a lot of sessions to get as far as we do today, and even then, we don't get all the way. So I'm just curious how you feel about that. Obviously, it's easier to do easier things and have episodes released more regularly, but I feel like at times, at least, I don't want to make it a constant thing, but at times, a slightly delayed episode with more, oomph to it is okay. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, and then I want to take that into consideration as I move forward as well. Because, yeah, it's, I wish this episode had come out, as per schedule on time, but it just wasn't ready by then, and I wanted it to be good. I didn't want to rush something out. I never want to rush something out. I never want to sacrifice quality. But as a result of that, obviously, this is coming, a week, 2 weeks after it technically should have. So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that, so I can, course correct accordingly and make decisions accordingly moving forward. Apart from that as well, I don't think I'll be speaking through the entire length of this time lapse. It is a very long one, but I'll obviously speak through the overall planning here, the overall story and everything, and then perhaps leave you with the beautiful soundtrack from the game, right? But let's, on that note, get into it, because I'm really excited actually to share this. This is all completely new to me, and I found it just fascinating, because this region I am always and have always been interested in, but despite that, this is a little niche, I guess, that I never known about. So I'm excited to share. So very quickly right off the bat, it's important to know that the water buffalo is represented in a variety of ways across a variety of cultures in South and Southeast Asia, as well as East Asia. In Tibet, it is the symbol of death. In Chinese culture, it is traditionally associated with a sort of contemplative life. In India, there's a huge variety of interpretations and ways they're looked upon. It is the mount of the Hindu god of death. In other parts of India, it's associated with a very specific sect of Hinduism, and as a result of that association, there are water buffalo sacrifices that are made. Sometimes the water buffalo, is considered to be evil, and as a there's actually one legend of a half-human, half-buffalo demon that has to be slain by a Hindu goddess. But in another case entirely, in a different part of the country, it is associated with a Hindu goddess instead as the mount of this goddess. I'm not going to get into too much of the nitty-gritty because, again, there are so many cultures with so many different interpretations and so many subcultures as well with so many different interpretations. Many Indonesian and like Chinese ethnic groups as well will have festivals where the water buffalo is also specifically sacrificed, much like the Indian one that I mentioned. Again, a specific sect of Hinduism in which the water buffalo is sacrificed, compared to a different, geographical variant of Hinduism where the buffalo is the mount of a goddess, compared to another geographical variant of Hinduism where the buffalo human hybrid is a demon that needs to be slain by a goddess. Like, there's a lot going on. And as you can probably tell, I was reading into each and every one of these, just looking for something that would be interesting and unique and special, and perhaps most importantly, something we hadn't done before or touched on before. We've created Tibetan landscapes, like we've created Tibetan enclosures, like Tibetan-themed enclosures. We've created Chinese-themed enclosures. We've created Indian-themed enclosures. We've created, when I say Indian, we've created, Hindu-themed enclosures. We've created like Mughal-themed enclosures. We've run that gamut. Even Southeast Asia. Like, we've touched on like Malaysian style aesthetic, and we've touched on Indonesian style aesthetic as well. We've done a little bit of, I don't want to say everything because that's too broad a statement, but we've done a lot when it comes to this region through our franchise mode playthroughs, right? But in my research, I was drawn to something that felt like it stood out. It felt like something we hadn't touched on in the past. Again, it's something that I never knew about, I was never exposed to, or never had any understanding of, and it tied in so specifically and so broadly with the water buffalo that it was in some ways the obvious choice. I was like, I have to talk about this because it's like a match made in heaven almost, how intrinsically tied the water buffalo is to this specific ethnic group. So today we are building our space, and in particular this building you're looking at being built right now, we're building it based on the, oh boy, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation and I apologize in advance. If you know better, then please feel free to try and help me out here, but I'm probably going to butcher this. So we're inspired by the Minangkabau people. Minangkabau. That's Minangkabau, Minangkabau. They're a people of West Sumatra, and they use the water buffalo's horns as a visual motif across a variety of things, including their clothes and buildings, and it's all because of a fascinating legend. So the name of this group, again, Minangkabau, is thought to be the blend of two different words. Minang, which means victorious, and Kabau, which means buffalo. And that is the result of a legend about a territorial dispute between these people and an invading prince. Now, typically, so sometimes the story is apparently told as like in a generic sense, where it's like, oh, it's some generic invader, but typically this invader is actually considered to be a Majapahit Empire, or a Majapahit prince, I should say. And the Majapahit Empire were a huge deal in Southeast Asia. They were based on the island of Java. They were a massive empire. They spread across from like Sumatra to New Guinea. They included Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, Brunei, southern Thailand, East Timor, parts of the Philippines too. They were huge. They were a very big deal. They were one of the last major Hindu empires of the region, and they are considered to be one of the most powerful empires in the history of Indonesia and Southeast Asia. So these guys were a big deal. And again, I apologize for all the pronunciations I'm sure I butchered there. But, you know, my butchery aside, these guys were a massive deal in Southeast Asia. So when the Minangkabau people were faced with this threat, being conquered by the Majapahit Empire, they wanted to avoid traditional conflict. They wanted to avoid a traditional battle. And so the local leaders proposed a fight between water buffalo instead. A fight to the death between their champion water buffalo and the Majapahit champion water buffalo. And I'm actually, that little circle of stones there, that's me building, where this battle, this fight might have taken place, this duel might have taken place in that ring there. It's a little small perhaps, but it's symbolic after all. Anyway, so the local leaders proposed a fight to the death between two water buffalo, and the Majapahit prince agreed. The prince sent forward his largest, meanest, gnarliest, toughest, most aggressive buffalo for this duel, but the locals sent a hungry baby buffalo instead, but they sharpened its horns so they were like knives. Now when the duel began, the hungry baby buffalo went towards the adult, hoping maybe it would have milk. And the big buffalo saw no threat in the baby and just paid it no mind. There's no threat here. It's not competing for dominance or anything, so didn't really care for it. But when the baby got under the buffalo and, started moving its head around looking for an udder, those sharpened horns stabbed through the underbelly and killed the bull. And the locals, as a result, won the dispute, and they named their tribe after this victory, Minangkabau, victorious buffalo. I find it absolutely fascinating. Just absolutely fascinating. Now, the moral of the story is that sometimes it's better to use wisdom and strategy to avoid war and violence. I think it can easily be expanded to the need to use one's wit over brute strength. I mean, it's a powerful story. It is one I have never heard before, and I quite like it. Like, you almost know, well, you know who's gonna win because you know how the story kind of ends, because obviously these people continue to exist beyond this story so that they're able to tell it in a positive way. But despite knowing the ending, I quite like the way it's like, oh, it's a baby buffalo. I don't know. There's a lot of details to it that I thought were really quite nice and quite fascinating. So again, their very name is tied to the buffalo. As I mentioned earlier, they use the buffalo's horns as a visual motif across multiple things. And that is, our more direct tie-in over here. You can see me building it right now, in fact. So again, you saw on the floor, we made that where the buffalo battle might have taken place, but more importantly is what you're seeing right now. It's based off of what's called the Rumah Gadang, which translates to big house. From my understanding, it is kind of like an equivalent of a longhouse in like Nordic cultures and stuff like that, so it's a bit of a communal space. But it's also a residence. So the way the Rumah Gadang works, if I'm saying that even remotely correctly, is, so first of all, since they are a matriarchal society, this big house is typically owned by the women of the family who live there, and then that ownership is passed on from mother to daughter, and it serves, as I was saying, as a residence, but also as a hall for family meetings and as a place for ceremonial activities. So I feel like, again, I don't know if it's always a communal living space. Like when it's a residence, is it a residence only for one, like, joint family? I don't think that this is for like the nuclear family, right? I think it's for like joint families, big families living together. Or is it multiple families share the same building? I'm not 100% sure on that. My memory is escaping me right now. But that's the use of this building. That's how its ownership kind of transitions as well. I thought that to be kind of interesting too. And apart from its uses and all that, as you might have been able to tell as you see this construction go down, its visual like styling, especially of the roof, is very much inspired by the buffalo. Now, I want to say really quickly, these buildings are actually a lot more decorated, a lot more vibrant than what you're seeing in this time lapse. I wish I could make it even half as vibrant as the examples that I came across in my research, but like the pieces are just not there. If you could scale some of the pieces, then maybe you could do that, but the pieces aren't there, and apart from the pieces, the frame rate would just be like gone. There would be no frames anymore. It would just be a slideshow at that point. Well, I mean, I guess those would be frames. Anyway, all that aside, I wasn't able to really do as much as I would have liked, I guess, in terms of just the colors and the shapes and stuff on flat surfaces. I'm talking about like decorative elements, but I wanted to prioritize that buffalo horn shape. So again, these like extremely steep curved roofs are inspired by the shape of the buffalo's horns. And I think just in me saying this out loud, hopefully it kind of very clearly communicates why I was like immediately like, this is the story we have to go with. This is the angle we have to take with this enclosure. But you can now, as I'm placing this bamboo down, you can now see some of my regrets shining through as I try to get this curve looking right and try to get it all to line up nicely. It was not easy. This was a difficult part of the time lapse. Everything else flowed very smoothly. You know, I'm quite happy with a lot of the stuff we've got going on, including the shallow, marshy looking space. Very pleased with how the lower levels of the building came together. I'm very pleased with how the roof is coming together as well. It's just, you know, very challenging to do. But overall, I mean, I wanted to pay homage to this culture, to these people. I thought this legend was fascinating. Again, it's something that I never heard of. So I was very excited to dive deeper into it and learn more and share with others, and hopefully, you know, some of you, if not all of you, have learned about something you didn't know about before today as well. But yeah, the Minangkabau people of West Sumatra and their legend defeating the Majapahit Empire in Buffalo battle was a big driving force and the inspiration today. And of course, the shape of the Rumagarang, the big house, was just an immediate like, well, if I'm gonna do these folks, if I'm gonna try and like tell this story, then why not be inspired by this almost one-to-one, you know, like just like I would be inspired by the shape of the animal to make an enclosure, they're inspired by the shape of the animal to make their, you know, rooftops and a bunch of other stuff as well. Like I said, it's a common motif, so it you know, match made in heaven, like I was saying. I hope you all enjoyed this time lapse. I actually managed to speak through pretty much all of it, so I hope you enjoyed this time lapse. I unfortunately will not be able to complete the roofing today because that would just delay this episode even further. I was exhausted by the time I reached this point. So I do have some questions with regards to that after this time lapse is done. Pay attention to that and let me know your thoughts, you know, in the upcoming segment with, you know, like outside of the time lapse. But yeah, if you enjoyed this time lapse, if you enjoyed this story, if you enjoyed the end result or the near end result, don't hesitate to let me know down below. Leave a like, leave a comment. Like I always say, I read all the comments, and the likes and comments let me know how y'all feel. But with that said, I'm gonna go quiet now, take us to the end of the time lapse, and then we'll be headed back to regular speed. Alright folks, we are back from the time lapse, and what a strange one it has been. One of the strangest throughout my entire Planet Zoo career, let's call it. I don't think, not once left an enclosure sort of unfinished before sort of getting the animal in there. I've completed enclosures and then revamped them entirely before. I've definitely completed enclosures and then introduced new elements to them in the past, but I don't think I've ever left an enclosure in an incomplete state before deciding to get the animals in and then opting to complete the initial plans at a later date. But folks, this construction has oh man, it's been wild. It's been absolutely wild, and I had to make a decision. As you may have noticed, this episode has been a little late to come to the channel. It's been almost a week, if not two, and that has been the culmination of a ton of research, a ton of searching, a ton of studying, I guess you could call it, and then ultimately a ton of time spent building as well. Definitely the longest time lapse we've had so far, and that kind of tells you how long it actually took to, you know, put metaphorical pen to metaphorical paper as I try to build this space. But you know, everything before that as well. I was looking for a cool concept for a very long time for this next animal, and I finally found one. Unfortunately, it as cool as the concept is, it came with this this massive time investment because I'm too stubborn to surrender what I think is a cool idea. And I want to try and execute this, and I will try and, not I will try, but I will execute this to completion. But I didn't want to keep delaying this episode. It's been one thing or another. It's been, you know, I mean, we've had a long hiatus in the past, but then apart from that, we've also had, you know, this 1 to, I guess, 2 week long break where I've just been trying to figure out what to do for the water buffalo. And then now that I finally figured it out, it's been taking me quite a bit of time to actually build the space for the water buffalo. And today I kind of came to the point where I was like, look, I've left y'all waiting for far too long. I would like to release this episode today, and then, you know, maybe when we add our next enclosure, or maybe after we add our next enclosure, I can come back and finish this off piece by piece as well. Because the stage we've reached right now with this is tedium. You know, all the bones are there, most of the meat is there. We just have to add, you know, like literally go in and layer by layer add some of this bamboo to finish off the rooftop, and that's that. So maybe I'll complete it bit by bit over the course of multiple time lapses or sessions or something. Y'all let me know if you want to actually see that, if you want to, because again, it would just be me laying these little bamboo pieces out to make the roof, to complete the roofs. So y'all let me know if you want to see that actually happen, or if you'd rather, you know, once it's complete, we come back to take a look at it, because I am excited to share the finished look. But yes, I hope you don't mind that I've got an incomplete structure in the middle over here. You could say, you know, construction work in progress going on over here, because in my mind, I was just like, I'm keeping y'all waiting far too long for this next episode, and that felt kind of bad. So I'll trying to strike a balance here where we're, you know, we're like 80-90% done. But we're done enough that we can actually get the animal in, see how it interacts with the space, and then we can come back and yeah, finish this off. Anyways, I'm rambling, partly because I am absolutely exhausted. This has been quite the undertaking, so I apologize for not having a filter on right now as I ramble away. But folks, let's take a look at Zoopedia. We'll take a look at our wonderful wild water buffalo, which is the new addition today, and you can kind of see what I was talking about. If I kind of frame this like this, you can kind of see where that inspiration comes from, based on, you know, the story I was sharing and the cultural information I was sharing during the time lapse. Hopefully, this gives a very clear visual kind of indication of where that inspiration has come from, and it's actually kind of cool to see it like this. I will say, I mean, incomplete as it is, it's quite promising in my opinion, and this actually makes me very happy. Seeing it like this actually makes me extremely happy. It makes me feel like all that time that's been invested in this construction has been, you know, well worth it. And man, that does make me really happy. I've been getting a lot of comments recently as a lot of folks have been either rewatching or For the first time watching some of the franchise mode playthroughs on the channel, I'm getting a lot of comments, a lot of compliments with regards to some of the construction I do, and I mean, a lot of the comments are, you know, a variation of, oh man, how do you build? You know, I can't build like that, stuff like that. And I just want to reiterate something I've said many times. It's the time lapse makes things look a lot easier than it actually is. So just keep that in mind. Don't give up. Power through it. It takes time. It takes practice. It takes familiarity. I wasn't good when I first started, I would say. I didn't think I was doing a very good job at first at all. And there's still a lot of room for improvement in my own, you know, work as well, I would say. But to those of you who are struggling with making things that you think are cool, that are passing your, you know, barrier for success, your bar, I should say, for success, just keep in mind that when you're watching myself and others on YouTube doing time lapses, you're not noticing all the hesitation, all the mistakes that happen, because it just goes by so quickly. So just keep that in mind, and let that, you know, keep you motivated. You're going to, it's not easy. It is a struggle. For some folks, it comes more naturally than others, sure. But it's a matter of familiarity with the pieces. It's a matter of time more than it appears in the time lapses. And it's a matter of, yeah, you know, experimentation. Anyway, with that little side note set aside, let's take a look at, yeah, the wild water buffalo. Man, I am really happy with how these shapes have come out. Damn, I'm really happy with how that's come out. Anyway, all right, enough distraction. The wild water buffalo, the Bubalo Arnie, or Arnie. Ever since I learned that, so I recently learned, thanks to the comments of this series, I've learned that this isn't always actually Latin. It just needs to sound like Latin, and that's good enough. And ever since I learned that, I've been a little, I don't know, disenfranchised with the scientific naming. It's like I feel like I've been duped all my life. Either way, these guys are endangered. Unfortunately, population in wild is 3,400. The wild water buffalo, or Bubalo Arnie, also known as the Asian water buffalo, is a very large species of bovine living in the marshes, swamps, and floodplains of Central, East, and Southeast Asia. Its present range is extremely fragmented, with the majority of animals living in India and other populations surviving in Nepal, Bhutan, Thailand, and Cambodia. Wild water buffaloes have gray to black skin with coarse dark hair covering the body sparsely, and an elongated head with small ears. Both sexes carry large, distinctively curved horns that point out horizontally from the skull and can have a span of 6.6 feet. What? I did not realize. I've seen buffalo in real life. And I'm fairly certain. I was very young. And it's an intimidating sight, but, you know, I had no sense of scale, I guess. 6.6 feet. That's insanity. All right. Sorry. The horns point out horizontally from the skull and can have a span of 6.6 feet, though the horns of bulls can be larger than those of cows. Bulls measure between 7.9 feet and 9.9 feet in length, stand 4.95 feet to 6.27 feet tall at the shoulder, and weigh up to 2,640 pounds. Cows are about 2/3 the size of males at 5.9 feet to 7.4 feet long, 3.7 feet to 4.7 feet tall at the shoulders, and weighing up to 1,760 pounds. Hang on, so, okay, so the horn span, I'm going to call it, of 6.6 feet is what can have. So I'm guessing that's like the upper range of the horn span. So it would be unfair to like assume that a cow that is 5.9 feet long is likely to have horns that are 6.6 feet in span. Because I was just gonna say, it's like, can you imagine that ratio of like having a horn span that is wider than the entire length of the animal? But I assume not. The way it's phrased tells me that 6.6 feet is on the higher end of the spectrum. Okay. Oh, that blew my mind. I mean, it's still blowing my mind. I was just a bit more, thrown off by it at first. As an endangered species, the wild water buffalo is protected across most of its range. The species is threatened by many different problems, including hunting, serious habitat fragmentation and loss, as well as hybridization with feral individuals of the domestic water buffalo. That's the Bubalus bubalus. Bubalus bubalus? I'm not sure what the difference pronunciation is there, but a closely related and possible descendant species. Interesting. Population numbers of wild water buffaloes are projected to decline further, though there are efforts to reintroduce small populations in certain areas. So this actually raises an interesting question, and I know we have many people in the comments who are far more informed in these things than I am, but I do often wonder when it comes to things like, okay, the wild water buffalo, the Bubalus arni, crossbreeding with the Bubalus bubalus, resulting in, hybrid offspring, unless that hybrid is unable to reproduce, is that a problem? It's like, okay, like I'm not sure exactly how to phrase that question, but like it's if if a species through hybridization becomes something else over the course of 1,000 years or whatever it might be, is that the same? Is that considered extinction in the same sense? You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing if an entire species is killed off. It's another thing if an invasive species ruins what's it called? Like the cycle, the circle of life, the natural order, the ecosystem, I guess. That's not the word I was looking for, but if an invasive species comes through, disturbs the ecosystem, and animals start dying off, I understand that as a type of extinction. Loss of habitat causing extinction, like I understand all that being, I understand all that being a serious problem as far as extinction is concerned. But if a species breeds with related species, or like if you're getting hybrid animals that are able to reproduce as well, right? Is that the same level of concern as being wiped out? Am I making sense? Hopefully I'm making sense. Now, it is a concern, obviously, because you are losing a species of animal, but if it's the result of something natural, or in this case, I guess, semi-natural, because the domesticated water buffalo is, arguably is domestication a natural thing? I mean, we've been doing it for millions of years, right? We've been doing it for a very long time, to the point where it's like, okay, it's kind of become a part of the natural world, except I don't know. I think it's a complicated question. At least it's not one that I'm equipped to answer. Obviously, losing a species is not ideal either way, no matter which way it happens, but I do wonder if it's considered differently in the eyes of conservationists and stuff like that, where an animal having its habitat wiped out or being hunted to extinction is obviously, like, that's the classical kind of, or the classic view of extinction, right? To be driven to extinction in that way, I totally understand. But through hybridization in the wild, I'm not saying forced, hybridization in the process of domestication, but in the wild, for this hybridization to happen and for a species to be reduced in number and then, again, wiped out, I guess, technically, is that as bad as things like, loss of habitat and stuff? Anyway, I'm going on a tangent there, but I am very curious about that. It's like, are they considered the same degree of problematic, or is one considered, at least semi-natural, I guess? Moving on to the natural habitat now. Funnily enough, our lore today, I guess, or our cultural story from today does not seem to be included in the range we're seeing here. I do believe, though, it would be the same. I mean, again, this is an endangered species now. The story that I shared during the time lapse is significantly older than today, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is. I mean, if this is obviously the current range, but historically that range was a lot larger into or further into Southeast Asia, and therefore, made sense in accordance to the story we discussed earlier today. Either way, I'm still glad to have explored something outside of realms and regions that I've already kind of explored in our franchise mode zoo and stuff. You know, we've done plenty of India. We've done plenty of I guess I'll call it, I don't know, is it continental Southeast Asia because it's attached to the continent. We've not done enough, I would say, exploration of these islands or indigenous cultures and stuff on the islands, on the archipelago down over here. So I'm glad that we poked out a little bit and explored some different ideas and cultures and thoughts and aesthetics as well. Despite what this map says with regards to the current range of the animal, of course. Biomes are tropical, aquatic, and grassland. Okay, I was fairly confident about tropical and aquatic because I know they are found in rather tropical climes, especially as it pertains to India at least, and Southeast Asia, actually, now that I think about it. So I'm not surprised about tropical. Aquatic as well, I'm not surprised considering it's the Wetlands Pack. But grassland, I'm surprised by, actually. I didn't expect grassland. We could have had a bit more variety, I suppose, in plant type, but hey, that's fine, not the end of the world. I'm not sure how many we'll want, but I'm pretty confident we've got enough space. We don't need deep water. We've got plenty of water. I've got this like shallow swamp-like thing going on, marshy kind of a thing. I thought it'd be an interesting experiment. It actually worked out quite nicely, so we'll see how that plays. Group size, excluding juveniles, is 3 to 30, up to 1 male, up to 29 females. Male bachelor group size is 3 to 10, and female bachelor group size is 3 to 30. Dominant system is of surprise to me because I was expecting, when it said 1 male, 29 females, I was expecting without a shadow of a doubt it'd be patriarchal, but no, it is matriarchal female clans with age-based dominance. Males determine dominance by age and strength. So I'm gonna okay, so I'm guessing, and I'm sure we'll see more details here, I assume, but I'm guessing that in female bachelor groups we see a matriarchal situation because, I mean, obviously, if it's a female bachelor group and it's all females, then it's got to be a matriarchal system there. But I guess in a herd that includes a male, we see a patriarchal system, perhaps. I don't know. Well, we'll read it because there have been some cases where it's like the males are loners and they wander and they insert themselves into, wandering female bachelor groups, and we'll see. Either way, surprised to see that after reading this, but good to have myself checked every once in a while. Mating system is polygynous. Relation with humans is confident, but guests cannot enter the habitat. Gee, I wonder why. Can you imagine being gored by something? Oh my goodness, I don't even want to finish that thought. Average size for males is 5.6 feet tall at the shoulder. For females is 4.3 feet tall at the shoulder. Life expectancy on average is 25 years across the board, and weight on average is 1,980 pounds for males and 1,540 pounds for females. Oh, geez, that heavy beasts. Age of sexual maturity is at 3 years. Sterility is at 20. Number of offspring per mating event is 1. Gestation of 10 months. Interbirth of 24. And reproduction in captivity is easy. So we should be seeing some baby buffalo relatively easily, relatively early on. Soon after, I guess, we get them in. Social needs. Wild water buffalo congregate in herds made up of many smaller groups. There are matriarchal groups of up to 30 cows, known as clans, which are led by a mature female. While males herd form... While males herd form separate... okay, one word is not right there. While male herds form separate... There we go. Okay, sorry. Let me read that again, because that was... So wild water buffaloes congregate in herds made up of many smaller groups. There are matriarchal groups of up to 30 cows, known as clans, which are led by mature females. While male herds form separate bachelor groups or follow female groups as solitary dominant bulls. Yeah, there we go. See, I had a feeling, I've been enjoying Zoopedia a lot. My retention hasn't been 100%, but it's been decent. I've been learning a lot of new things about animal behavior patterns that I didn't know existed in the past. For example, the idea of a dominant male following bachelor female groups and stuff like that. Yeah, you know what? I'm pretty pleased with that. I'm pretty pleased. Reproduction. During the breeding season from October to November, many clans, bachelor groups, and solitary bulls may form a herd. Dominant bulls will attempt to join a clan in order to mate with them. They will compete for access to these groups with dominance displays including bellowing, stamping, and charging at each other. If the matriarch accepts a bull into the clan, he will monitor all fertile females for signs of estrus by scenting and tasting their urine, and mate with them when receptive. The clan will usually chase him away once he has mated with all fertile cows. That's funny. that's funny. Following a pregnancy of 10 to 11 months, the female will give birth to one calf, rarely twins. Weaning of calves is complete by 6 to 9 months of age, but stay with their group until 1 to 1.5 years old. At this age, males will leave to join a separate bachelor herd, while females remain in their natal clan. Wild water buffalo males are sexually mature at 1.5 years of age, but are unlikely to mate until older and larger. They're likely to become more solitary with age, reaching their full body and horn size by 8 years old. Female buffaloes are sexually mature at 3 years of age and remain with their mother's clan. I just find it's so cool, and like it's obvious. I know it's obvious, and it's stating the obvious, but it is so cool just how sexual maturity is reached at a very early time in life when the animal has no hope of competing. And you gotta wonder, how, not why, I guess, because why not, right? That's nature for you. Things are the way they are, and things just work out some ways, right? But it's just interesting that they become sexually mature at such an early age, but they're nowhere near their full potential until 6.5 years later, right? And it makes sense that the younger males aren't able to mate because they're not able to take on the fully mature male competition. But at the same time, I suppose, in the case of, I'm being very hypothetical here, but in the case of widespread disease, or in the rare case that males in a region have died for one reason or another, whether it's disease or being hunted by humans or other animals, I guess that gives the opportunity for some of the younger males to fill that gap if they manage to survive, because I guess they'd be less appealing targets. I don't know, but they'd be more appealing targets to predators because they have smaller horns. I don't know. It's all fascinating stuff. I've always found this stuff fascinating. Again, it's stating the obvious, yes, but it's still cool. Just because it's obvious doesn't make it any less cool, right? Anyways, on the topic of cool, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these fun facts and hope that they are cool. By the way, there is the scarecrow feeder, which is new for the buffalo, I believe. So that'll be fun to see how they interact with it, if they interact with it. But fun fact number 1, along with the gaur, the wild water buffalo is the heaviest bovine species. Oh, really? Okay. I was actually expecting a little bit heavier than the numbers we saw. I guess I was expecting a little bit heavier for the heaviest bovine species, because I've seen some big cows. I've seen some big bulls in my life. I've seen some big cows in my life. Fun fact number 2, wild water buffaloes tend to graze in the morning or evening and can be active both during the day and night. Fair enough. Fun fact number 3, wild water buffalo populations are susceptible to diseases and parasites that are often passed to them by domestic cattle and other livestock. So that's a serious issue. In that earlier conversation about extinction and hybridization and stuff, I guess hybridizing with domesticated buffalo might make them more susceptible to certain diseases, I do wonder what is of highest concern to conservationists versus lesser concern. Not in the sense of this line here, I forget what it's called now. Not in this sense of least concern to critically endangered, but in the sense of if you had 3 animals that were endangered for 3 different reasons, and one of them was endangered because of this hybridization, as opposed to losing habitat loss, is there a priority? Is there a way of setting priority, I guess, in a situation like that? Anyway, that's that. Fun fact number 4, the vast majority of the remaining population of wild water buffalo live in protected areas in Indian national parks. Good stuff. India. So it's always interesting to hear about the wildlife conservation success stories coming out of India. I've heard it feels near constant. It's like once a year or once every 2 years or something, you'll hear about the tiger population has improved, or an entire village has been moved because tigers were starting to re-inhabit spaces that they used to inhabit previously, or there was a, I mean, there was a reforestation thing last year, I think, that came up. So it's, I mean, it's nice to hear stuff like this come up every so often of just success stories in extremely rapidly urbanizing spaces. It's a good thing to see and hear, because again, like if we look at the map here, there isn't a lot of, I mean, there really isn't a lot, right? In terms of space. I'm actually curious now if there are some parks there that are worth looking up and seeing what else is going on over there. But anyway, sorry, a little distraction there. Fun fact number 5, the horns of the wild water buffalo are up to 6.6 feet wide, giving them the largest horns of all living bovines. That's an, look, man, decent facts. That 5th one was just, that was a cop-out. We already read that before. But yeah, fun fact number 1, pretty cool. Fun fact, I mean, like, it took me by surprise, right? So gotta give that points. Fun fact number 2, yeah, I would say that's pretty interesting. Number 3 was solid as well. Yeah, overall solid. Still not as good as the what was it? Oh, the platypus, I think, right? The platypus had the best fun facts I've seen in a while across the board. These were really cool. But still, I would say the wild water buffalo had a decent set of fun facts. Interspecies enrichment. Oh, they can actually share space with the Indian rhino and the Malayan tapir. Now, I wonder if the Indian, like, again, let me see something here real quick. That's so funny to me. Now, obviously, these maps aren't 100% precise, but like the buffalo, the wild water buffalo, is like, down over here. The rhino is up over here. So how are they enriched by each other's presence? Like, how does that work? Are they're not? What kind of it's not a symbiotic relationship. Have they even seen each other? Are they familiar with each other? How does that work when these animals do not live next to each other? Okay, I guess there must be some overlap up over here. It must be what's going on. Let me see. Yeah, I guess there's a bit of overlap over here, which is where it's drawing that interspecies enrichment from. But I'm sure, wild water buffalo from down over here, if they were to see a rhino, they'd be like, what is that? Why is its horn on the front of its face and not above its head? You know what I mean? You gotta wonder what animals think sometimes. Anyway, enough of that. Let me go ahead back to the wild water buffalo, over to the market, and try and scoop up 3. Excellent. Don't mind if I do. We got a silver ranked male here for us. Let's go ahead and get, I guess we'll want 2 females, right? Isha and Vinay. Sure. Over to the Zupedia again. Falling out of habit a little bit. It's been so long since I've brought animals in. Let's go ahead and move you in. Let's go. Good stuff. That should work out properly. And let's go ahead and unpause. This entire construction is going to really jank up the frame rate a fair bit, I'm sure. But yeah, I was mentioning it earlier. I don't think I actually zoomed in and took a look at it. But you can see the tall grass over here. A lot of it is actually underwater. And I'm really pleased with how this worked. It took a lot of meticulous, nudging of the water. But I am quite pleased with how this looks without using any of the aquatic, placeable plants or anything. It looks quite good. And then, of course, there are some mounds and stuff that I've made as well where there's no more water, or there's... oh, actually, I guess the water... Oh, no, there we go. You can see how, this is, dry land, right? This is actual land, but right next to it is a bit more of a swampy, marshy kind of a look. And I do quite like how that looks. It looks better than I'd expected it to. I mean, look at that. That's quite cool. You got the long grass is all I'm using at the bottom there, and the way it behaves underwater, I mean, okay, it's a little bit more jostled by the wind than perhaps it should be, but it brings life to this space, and it's the first time I think I've ever done such shallow water, and I quite like how it's turned out, and the reflection is quite nice as well. I really wish I don't know, part of me is torn. I really wish I'd completed that building before today's session was taken to its completion, but at the same time, I felt like it has been so long that this episode has been in production, and I wanted to get it out there. I've been so excited to share everything from this episode because it was all fresh to me. It was all new knowledge to me, and I mean, again, those of you that are familiar with the channel know that I really enjoy sharing when I learn something new, I really enjoy talking about it and discussing it and taking, bringing it out to the others. So it's been difficult not doing it even sooner, but it couldn't have been any sooner. I do appreciate your patience, so I do want to say, and hopefully we were able to complete this soon, because I'm loving the shape. Again, it matches quite nicely. Seeing it next to the Bufalo image really does highlight how it matches quite nicely, I think. But yeah, it's just a matter of bringing it to its completion now. Where is... There we go. Hey, buddy. Look at that. Oh, that's horrifying, that sound. Whoa, hello. Hey, buddy. Fun fact, I've had the pleasure of feeding a cow. Half, I guess. It's very fun. They're very friendly. I don't know about buffalo. I mean like a regular, I mean like a cow, like a domesticated cow. I've had the pleasure of feeding. Did you just go into that tree there? You did, didn't you? I didn't realize you could do that. Oh no. Where'd he go? Okay, hang on. Where did he go? Where's my habitat? Oh, right in there. Yeah, it looks like they can, in fact, escape over here. Go ahead and pause that for a second. Can they escape across the board, or is it just these couple of spots? Oh, it is across the board. I really wish... I don't know how they can make it through this, like, the thick trees, you know? Alright. Quickly, can I... Comes back over here. Push this up a little bit. Push this up a little bit as well. I go ahead and make this into the wood logs. Raise it up a bit. We'll hide them some more with the use of some trees, I guess. Go ahead and get the wood logs here. Yeah. Okay. It's as long as they can't escape is the main concern. There we go. Oh, bust there. Now I actually just realized I haven't checked all the happiness and stuff. They are glorious creatures, absolutely beautiful, and they're prevalent across multiple cultures. By the way, I mean, I hopefully I mentioned it during the time lapse, but I didn't want to go with one of the cultures I've covered previously. I know I mentioned this briefly just moments ago as well. I didn't want to go with a culture that we've already focused a lot on before, but there are so many cultures that either revere or otherwise utilize wildwater buffalo. So you can find stories like across the board in South, Southeast, and South and Southeast Asia, I should say. And it's been interesting, like trying to pick one out. Sorry for that edit there. Sirens blaring outside. I'm sure you heard a little bit of it. My apologies. Didn't want that all blasting through the mic, but yeah. So there are so many cultures with so many interesting like stories. Sometimes they're representative of evil. Sometimes they have to be slain because they're causing some kind of trouble or the other. A lot of the time they are positive force. A lot of the time they are simply in the case of the story today, they're simply beasts, but they have an importance to an entire people. There's a lot of fascinating stuff, and if you're curious, then I would highly recommend looking up the buffalo folklore. I guess specifically wildwater buffalo. But when I was doing my research, just looking up buffalo folklore was enough to send me in the right direction, finding some really interesting stories and tales and mythologies. Very cool stuff out there. Let me get all this done here. That's a lot of grass they want. Well, I guess. Come on. Go. There we go. Perfect. Whew. That fighting against the frame rate at the same time is what made that take longer than it normally should have. Few too many trees. A few too many trees. Now, it's not causing them any trouble. So that's good. And it looks like... Oh, I see. Sorry, folks. Another siren-related edit there. My apologies. That's kind of Wild, actually. There's a lot of sirens. Okay, but it looks like a couple of these trees are just like, you know, on the cusp of the two enclosures, and that's causing some trouble. But just too many trees as well in general. I'm sure we could get rid of quite a few of them, like out over here and stuff, and we might be fine. Another edit there because of sirens. Just can't catch a break today. My apologies, folks. Anyway, I don't think we really need to get rid of any of these trees or anything. Again, the animals are feeling fine with regards to their space. Again, it's down at 98%, so it's not the end of the world. If it were the end of the world, we'd come back through and we'd make those changes, but I really don't think it's necessary. So let's go ahead and unpause and take a look at how these guys are doing. Hopefully we'll see some interesting interactions. Sorry. I'm hoping to not draw this episode out by too much longer. It's already been, well, it's been quite the recording adventure, at least. I'm trying to keep these at a reasonable length overall. I try to keep these an hour-long episodes at most. I feel like that's kind of the comfortable viewing length, so not too much more to go in this episode. I do want to see these animals interact with their space a little bit, just see how they're feeling and how they're vibing. And then we'll call it a day shortly thereafter. Though, yeah, I'm curious about when we should come back to finish this space to get it all done. And I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below if you'd like to actually watch that development, or if you'd rather we just come back when it's been completed. But yeah, do let me know down below in the comments what approach you would prefer personally. Everyone's got their own thoughts and opinions. I've got my own thoughts on it as well, but I love to hear your thoughts and make my decisions accordingly, as I always do. Again, I do read the comments. I do read them all, even if I don't get a chance to respond to them. Again, as always, if you've been enjoying this series, if you do want to see more Planet Zoo on the channel, don't hesitate to keep letting me know. Leave those likes and comments down below, folks. It does make a very, very big difference. Just, again, letting me know what I should keep doing on the channel, what I should slow down, what I should pick up the pace on, so on and so forth. I'm also curious, actually, how folks feel about the general kind of less rigorous schedule lately. It's been different than the usual, you know, all of the last 2 years, or I guess since 2019 is when this game came out. Things have been very rigid and rigorous as far as scheduling is concerned. But you know, with, for example, this enclosure, it took me a lot longer to research and find opportunity and an idea than I'd expect. But in the end, I'm pleased with it. Yeah, I mean, again, technically it's not even done yet. I didn't want to wait even longer, but I'm quite pleased with it. But it did result in, again, like a slightly irregular schedule again. So I'm just curious again how folks feel about that. I gotta say, I really like this shallow water. Just seeing the buffalo like slowly amble through it and seeing the splish splash amidst the grass and all that, I think is quite cool. It's very different from anything we've done before, and I do think it's quite cool. Oh, hang on, I gotta get, you know, I think that's about as close as we're gonna get to like seeing this for real, the animal and then the building behind it with the shape. That's kind of cool, actually. It's kind of cool to see it like that. I love it. Oh, such a cute look. They are quite majestic. The shape of the horns are so precise. I mean, obviously they're not 100%, you know, perfectly accurate mathematical like structures or whatever, but they seem so near perfect. It's almost unfathomable, you know. It's almost like hard to understand. I mean, the water's a little bit deeper over here. I really like this space quite a lot, actually. Not just the building and the little you know, competition ground over here, but just the way that the shallow water works and all that. I feel like it could use a bit more in this like massive empty space. I feel like I could put a bit more down here, I suppose. But overall, pretty pleased with it all. Look this way. Come on, look this way. No, not that way, not that way, this way. Come on. I want to get it looking this way with that building in the background, but I don't think I'll be so lucky. Oh, there we go. Always fun to see a few different interactions. Did I miss the mud bath over here? just taking a lie down on it. Looks like we came here just in time. Looks very pleased with himself. Or herself. I'm not can't tell, they're all quite massive, yeah, himself. I like watching them graze and stuff as well. They've done such a fantastic job with the animals. I mean, again, I know it's one of those things that goes without saying, but they really have. Quite impressive. This lighting is like constantly backlit. They are gorgeous, though. They are gorgeous. Looks like there are no escapes over here. I was a little worried there might be an escape route down over here, which is why they were coming here, but I guess not. Look at that. That's great. Just fantastic. Where'd our mail go? Oh no, where did he go? Buddy? Where'd you go, bud? Did I see him? Oh, there he is, yeah. I thought I saw a moving brown... Like, I was like, that's not tree bark, so it's moving. Alright. You know what? I think, folks, that's where we're going to call it a session. Again, like I said before, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below with regards to completing the roofing on that building in the back there. Would you like to see it play through, or would you rather, you know, I kind of do it behind the scenes, and then one day when it's finally completed, we can come back to it and take a look at this enclosure with all of its missing pieces in place. It's just that one thing, really. Everything else is pretty much complete, and I'm very happy with. I might, when I come back, I might add a bit more something over here just to add just some, you know, variation, maybe even if it's just soil or something, maybe some small trees, get some shade in there, because there's a lot more, as you can see, there's a lot more happening here. I might even just add some rocks like I've done, you know, over here, add them up over here, something to break this up, but it's mainly just the roofing over here that still is gonna take some time to complete. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Otherwise, next session, I'm hoping to move on to our next enclosure, which is not our last one still, right? Because we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 animals with this DLC, I believe. So there's 2 more enclosures, and then there's the there's some exhibit animals as well. I believe there's just the 1, but we have at least 2 more time lapses to get the, or rather, I should say, at least 2 more sessions to get the Wetlands Pack DLC completed, and then again, we will be back with the European Animal Pack, right? And we're gonna see how far we can push this side of the zoo, because if we zoom back, I mean, we've reached this corner, and I really love like 95% of the zoo. I feel like as we start filling this space out, hopefully I start to fall in love with it a bit more. But it looks obviously very barren and like nothing's going on over here. So I'm excited to get the final 2 animals, I guess, over here from the Wetlands Pack DLC, and then we'll go over here and we'll add the European animals in the DLC that barely got any coverage on this channel when it first released. But folks, I hope you enjoyed this session. If you did, again, you know what to do. Let me know down below. Leave a like, leave a comment. As always, it makes a massive difference. Just letting me know what y'all are interested in watching on the channel, what I should keep doing, what I should pick up the pace on, slow down, so on and so forth. As you very well know by now, it really makes a huge impact as to how I approach things. As always, a massive thanks goes out to all of the channel members and patrons who've been supporting the channel on a monthly basis. Y'all keep us alive and running smoothly. And of course, a big old thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.